All right, good afternoon, everybody. We have people coming in rapidly now, and it's 1 o'clock. So we will start the first meeting of the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee for 2023. We'll have a chance to do introductions for everybody in a moment, but the first piece of business we'll go through, which some of the members of MAC who have served before, but we'll know about, is the election of the chair and vice chair. So I'll start by asking if there are any volunteers or nominations for someone to serve as chair on the committee. Susan.
I would like to nominate Amy.
Excellent. Amy, do you accept the nomination?
I do accept the nomination. Yes.
Great.
Thank
you,
Susan.
All right. So we have Susan as the mover on that. Is there somebody to second just by a show of hand the nomination? Perfect. I will go with Councillor Tozo. And does anybody want to run against Amy and make this really interesting? No? Okay, excellent. In that case, I will call the vote. So everybody in favor of electing Amy Birch as chair of the committee, please raise your hand or indicate yes. Excellent. Perfect. Amy, congratulations. Yes, you can vote for yourself as well, Amy. So awesome. So then I guess the next step is anybody interested in serving as or nominating somebody as the vice chair? This is always the tricky one. Janice, I see you've unmuted there. Go ahead.
I would volunteer to serve unless somebody has a burning desire to do so. Otherwise,
I'll ask then, is anybody else wanting to put their name forward for the vice chair? I'm seeing nothing then. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder for Janice as the vice chair? Janice will be Councillor Tozo moving, Susan seconding. I'm just going to jot this down quickly. Perfect. And we'll call the vote on that. All those in favor of Janice Wilby as the vice chair, raise your hand or indicate. Any opposed? I'm not seeing any. Great. So what I will do is turn things over to Amy. And actually, Amy, do you want to run through like introductions for people? Would you like me to do that so you have a moment to get settled?
Either, whatever is easiest with you. Is it just going through and everybody's going to just have a chance to introduce themselves? Is that the thought?
Yeah, that was my thought.
On the agenda?
We just call upon people so there's not the awkwardness of who's going to talk. So I can volunteer to go first. I also can see everybody. So if you want me to do that, Amy, I can do that.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go first. I believe I've met everybody here before, exchanged emails, but I'm Derek O'Shea, the committee clerk for the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and we will be, I'm your #1 contact for anything to do with the committee. So we will be exchanging lots of emails over the next little while. And I'm actually going to put on the spot next from staff, the Deputy City Clerk, Janet Jane. So Janet, if you'd like to introduce yourself quickly.
Hey everybody, sorry, it just took me a few seconds to unmute. I had to try a couple of times. But good to see those that I've met before and nice to see so many new faces. Look forward to working with you over the next year. My role is to lead the accessibility office. So we provide a lot of coordination support between the committee and the various city departments related to each department's accessibility initiatives. So Derek as committee clerk and me as the manager of the accessibility office would be your primary contacts if you have any questions related to anything to do with the accessibility committee or accessibility in general. And we can get you to the right place if we're not the right person to answer your question. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Janet. And I'll put another one of my colleagues on the spot. Mohammed, if you would like to introduce yourself quickly, because you play an important role with accessibility with the city as well.
Thank you very much, Derek. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Hassan. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I am the manager of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And there's a lot of coordinated work that we do with accessibility. Like equity is incomplete. In fact, it's meaningless without accessibility as an important component of it. So really looking forward to working with all of you again. Some of you are new, some of you are back. I'm really excited for us to collaborate and make our Kingston even more accessible and barrier-free for everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed. Now I'm just going to go around with committee members based on what I can see on my screen. So Caitlin, you are first. Oh, I think you're still on mute, Caitlin. Might be hard when you've got a little one in your hands there. Oh, and you're back on mute, unfortunately. There you go.
Okay. Are we good?
You are.
Thanks, Derek. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Bruce. I've been fortunate to be a member of MAC for several years now. I identify as someone who is partially sighted, so I do have vision loss. I have my sidekick Kinsley here with me. She's 7 months old. And I will be returning to work in June, and I work as an accessibility advisor at Queen's University. So really looking forward to connecting with members who have come back to the committee as well as our new members.
Great. Thank you very much, Caitlin. Next is Kim.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Atwood. I'm a retired occupational therapist, and I'm now a grad student at Queen's trying to earn my PhD. For several years, I've served on the university's Built Environment Advisory Group, which I believe is similar to a group on the MAC. So that's where my experience comes. I'm also a wheelchair user and a user of paratransit. So I have lived experience that I bring to this group.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kim. And next I have is Andrea.
Hey there. I'm Andrea. This will be my first time on any city committee. I'm the General Operations Manager at Heart Center, and I've been with them for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, I worked in the office of the MPP. I actually have invisible disabilities, including being neurodivergent. So I'm looking forward to working with the committee and working with all of you. So.
Excellent. Welcome, Andrea. Next, I will go to our chair, Amy.
Perfect. Thanks, Derek. Hi, everybody. Again, welcome to those new members, and also great to see some friendly faces of previous members. As Derek said, my name is Amy. I work full-time at Queen's University at the Office of the University Ombudsperson, and then I also teach part-time at St. Lawrence as well. I'm also heavily involved in the local Special Olympics, and that's kind of how I got involved with a lot of different things around town. This is, I guess, like Caitlin, I've been on the committee for several years. I kind of did a 6-year stint and took a year off. And then now I'm back for a second year in this role. So again, happy to see everybody and looking forward to the work that we'll do on this committee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Next, I have Susan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan, and like Caitlin and Amy, I've been on the committee for, I think I'll be going into my 5th year this year. And mostly I've been working most recently with the Built Environment Working Group and on site plan review. And I also have lived experience of a mobility disability. And I'm also looking forward to meeting all the new people and working with everybody that I already know.
Excellent. Thank you, Susan. Next, I will go to Emily.
My name is Emily Bennett, and I am the Sales and Events Manager at the Greater Kingston Chamber of Commerce. I am familiar with Kingston. I did my undergrad here at Queen's, but my family and I relocated back to Kingston summer last year. So this is my very first committee I've ever been involved in. So I'm really excited to be working with everyone over the next year.
Great, and welcome to the committee, Emily. Next is Lucy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucie Moussu. I work at the Royal Military College. I arrived in Kingston in August 2021, so a year and a half ago about. Yeah, I have mobility issues too. And I've been fighting with the parking people since I arrived in Kingston. Other than that, I'm super excited to be on this committee, and I've been on multiple committees, but those are academic committees, so I don't think it's going to be the same thing. And I'm very excited to be with you today. Thanks.
Thank you, Lucy. And yes, a little bit different than an academic committee, but I think you'll find it equally rewarding. So next I have Ibrahim.
Hello. I just want to clarify. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. Well, hello. As Derek said, my name is Ibrahim Kitane. I'm a bachelor student in Queen's University. I identify as having a low vision, and I seek to to bring some feedback forward to share so that we can look at the spaces for improvement with accessibility in Kingston.
Great. That's a great attitude to bring to the committee. Next, I'll go to Nicholas.
Can everyone hear me?
We can.
My name's Nicholas Tall-Jesse. I'm a returning member here at MAC, and I'm excited to serve again and see what new opportunities and positive changes we can make moving forward with this great committee. And a big welcome to all the new members.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Nicholas. Next, I'll introduce the new council member on the committee, Councillor Brandon Tozo.
Hi. I have to say, so my background is I have a doctoral degree in political science. I've done policy work. I actually helped work on AODA and the provincial standard back in the day. I am extremely passionate about accessibility, and on a personal note, I have a cerebral palsy, so I live it as well. This was the #1 committee I wanted to be on. I think we can do a lot of great work over the next few years, and I am absolutely delighted to work with everybody on this committee. I think we can do tremendous amounts of work as a city on reducing our barriers and really increasing accessibility. So I look forward to being the passionate advocate for accessibility on council. I really want to move this file forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Tozo. And next I have Janice Wilby.
Hello, everyone. Hello to new members, and love to see all the familiar faces. I think this is my 3rd year on the committee, and really happy to be here. And it's been an honor, and I've learned a lot over my 3 years, and I have no doubt I will learn more. I work for Wind Athletes Canada, which is a not-for-profit in town. And I also volunteer heavily at Cork, which is Canadian Olympic Regattas Kingston. We run regattas out of Portsmouth Olympic Harbour. And a few other committees sparkled in there, but I won't go over all of them. But really excited to be your vice chair and learn from Amy, who's got a ton of experience, and here all the time for everybody. And my lived experience is a mobility issue, and I use a scooter. I live downtown, so I'm constantly scootering all over the place, and ready to do. I think I want to do an accessibility audit so I can get into some more of my favorite places downtown. Thanks,
Great.
Derek.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you, Janice. Next, I have Aldo.
Sorry, taking me a second to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Aldo Ramirez. I've been living in Kingston for the last 11 years. My wife and I moved from Peru. Currently, I worked at Alstom, former Bombardier Transportation. And yeah, I'm happy to join the committee. Excited to learn about the members who have been around for a while, and just share my and my family my own experience dealing with accessibility through Kingston.
Great. Thank you very much, Aldo. And last but not least, I'll ask Darcy to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Darcy. My background is a nurse, but I work in the community as a psychogeriatric resource consultant. So I hope to bring the lens of people with some brain changes to the table. So first year, looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you very much, Darcy. And Amy, I'll turn it back to you, but we're all very excited. We have a very good group with a lot of different backgrounds, so I think we'll do very well. But Amy, it's back to you now as chair.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Derek. So we've hopefully everybody's had a chance to go through the agenda that Derek sent through. So we've already gone through election of officers. Our meeting has been called to order. I don't know if we had to do that officially, but just taking a look at the agenda, if there are no kind of amendments or changes, as far as I'm aware, we have to do an approval of the agenda. Is that correct, Derek?
That's right, Amy. We'll get a mover and a seconder and a vote.
And so if there are no other changes, yeah, can I get a mover and a seconder? I think I saw Caitlin raise her hand, and then Janice as well as a seconder. And then all in favor for approving this agenda, if you can raise your hand or use the hand single. Thank you. I think that is carried. Perfect. So the next item on the agenda is the confirmation of minutes from our last meeting, which would have been November 3rd of 2022. Derek also included that with the correspondence he sent out. So if there are any edits, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I will also need a mover and a seconder for an approval of these minutes from November 3rd. Susan, thank you. And can I get a seconder for that? Janice, thank you so much. And if I can get all hands in favor of that confirmation of minutes. Seeing everybody, perfect, thank you, that carries. The next few items, it looks like are fairly quiet for us. So disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have never had any disclosure of pecuniary interest in a meeting so far. So far so good, 8th year. So I'm just going to skip over that one. We also have no delegations for this meeting, no briefings for this meeting. And we will jump right into business item A, which is our 2023 committee work plan. And I believe that is Janet that is going to talk us through that work plan.
You're right, Amy, that's me. Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief introduction to the report, a little bit of background for the new members. So the, excuse me, every year staff work with different staff in the accessibility office, work with staff in other departments, and put together a work plan for the committee's consideration. We base that on feedback that we've received from the committee during the previous year about things that they would like to receive information or provide feedback on. So the report before you today summarizes the activities that the committee will undertake over the course of the year. So things like the annual awareness campaign that we undertake as part of National Accessibility Week, the annual Accessibility Awards, which are awards that recognize individuals and businesses in the community that have gone above and beyond in terms of furthering accessibility in the city of Kingston. The report also outlines the briefings and reports that will come from various city departments to provide information to the committee on the accessibility initiatives that have been undertaken in those respective departments and receive feedback from the committee on those activities. So you'll see that the Appendix A of the report is the work plan. And for example, for February 2023, we've laid out the Accessibility Office report and the 2023 work plan. So that's how you'll know what's coming to you for consideration as business items for any meeting that we have scheduled for the year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks so much, Janet. And I think as part of that report, we can see the following dates. So typically we are meeting kind of monthly, but the dates proposed for kind of the next year are February, March, May, June, September, and November. So there's definitely some months that are obviously not part of that. And that is just one thing I wanted to highlight from her report as well. So if there's any questions from the committee before we move to the motion, because there is a motion or a recommendation, sorry, on the table, but does anybody have any questions for Janet before we go to that? Okay, seeing none. So the first recommendation is that the Municipal Accessibility Committee recommends to Council that Council approve the 2023 Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee Work Plan, which is attached as Exhibit A to the report number MAC 23001. If I can get a mover for that, and then we will get a seconder. Councillor Tozo I saw, and seconder, I saw Nicholas raise his hand. That's perfect. So all in favor, if I can have you raise hands, or again, use the hand raise function. Perfect, thank you. That recommendation carries through. So the next item on our agenda is the Accessibility Office update from Q4, so Q4 of 2022, which is Janet, or who's going to talk about that?
That's me again.
Okay,
I'm stealing the show today. So again, I'll give just a little bit of background on why this report is coming for our new members, so you're not wondering why I'm here talking about statistics. Every quarter, the Accessibility Office puts together this Accessibility Office report, and as part of that report, we provide information to the committee on the number of customer inquiries that we've received through our customer service. So that could be contacts that are either in person at one of our counters, through the contact us email, or by telephone. And they set out the service areas and the number of inquiries that we've had in any given year. So this report, I believe it's page 3 of the report, which is page 9 of your agenda. You'll see that there are the statistics for Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. When I come back to you with the next quarter, it will start all over again, and it'll have the statistics for Q1 of 2023. So obviously we're a little bit behind where we are currently in the calendar year, because we have to wait for those statistics to be compiled and put into a report. So that's the reason why this report comes, is to provide the committee with that information. We try to provide a bit of analysis around that information to give you an idea of how that compares to sort of the same time frame in the previous year, and compare it to sort of a rolling 4-year average to know whether we're trending up or trending down, why that might be. And the other thing that the quarterly report will do is give the committee a status update on where we are in the work plan. So since we're talking work plan, I'll start with that one. So this is sort of the final update on the 2022 work plan. It was a very successful work plan. All the initiatives were completed, except for an update that was expected from Transportation and Public Works. And that was supposed to be on the November 2022 agenda, but it was deferred until Q1 of 2023 because Transportation and Public Works needed to come and consult with the committee on a special initiative related to a sidewalk parking exemption. So they used their time slot in November to do that special consultation, and they will be coming early in the calendar year in 2023 to give you that report that was expected towards the last to the end of 2022. So really a successful year. The other piece I wanted to just chat a little bit about was the customer service inquiries for the fourth quarter of 22. They were down in Q4 to 116 compared to 129 in the third quarter of 2021, but they were above the fourth quarter average, the rolling fourth quarter average, which dates back to 2029. The inquiries were primarily in the areas of parking and roads and transit. It is important to note, though, that the 4-year average in all areas, but particularly in parking and transit, are skewed because of the COVID-related service closures that took place in 2020 and 2021. So, people were staying home, there was reduced transit service, that sort of thing. So the numbers are a bit skewed in that way because, not as many people riding the bus, we're not going to have as many people making inquiries. So just keep that factor in mind. That although our rolling fourth quarter average is 73, 116 maybe isn't all that bad. It's not that much higher when you take into account that there were those service closures in the 2 years. That's going to make our average a little bit lower. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And hopefully you found the report helpful. And again, I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jan. I appreciate all those updates. So this, for your purposes, committee, this report is for information only, but again, Janet is happy to take any questions or concerns or anything like that you have on this report. And this is a report that we will see quite often. Again, it's kind of a quarterly report, so we'll continue to see sort of updates as we progress in the year. But are there any questions at this point in time for Janet on that report that she presented? Aldo, sure.
Sorry, I'm new, so I apologize if it's a dumb question. I'm wondering if there is a KPI or some sort of indicator for the city about the number of inquiries they're expecting to get every year. I mean, is a goal to increase the number of inquiries received, or any information on that?
Thanks for the question, Aldo. No such thing as a dumb question. There isn't really a key performance indicator because all of those touch points, they're not necessarily, I mean, it would be hard to say, well, we want to increase the number of inquiries or decrease the number of inquiries, because not all inquiries are, hey, I had a problem. Sometimes the inquiries are, I had a really great experience on Kingston Transit. So I did lay out a couple of examples in the report of some of the pieces that we, some of the reasons why we got communications, right? So sometimes there were calls about customers saying, you know, that there are vehicles that are parked in accessible parking spaces and don't have an accessible parking permit. So obviously, those are not numbers we want to see increase. We don't want people parking in those spots if they don't have the permit. But likewise, we had some feedback where people had written into or called in to say that they, you know, they've observed a transit operator show extreme consideration and kindness to a passenger with mobility issues. And so those are the numbers that we do want to see go up. So it's a bit hard to sort of put a KPI number on there because we're measuring two different things. So that's another thing also to remember with the numbers too, is that a trending up in numbers doesn't necessarily mean an increased level of dissatisfaction, and a trending downwards doesn't necessarily mean the opposite. So sorry for the long-winded answer. Short answer is no, there isn't a KPI, but I wanted to give a bit of a background of why we don't have that.
Sure, I appreciate the explanation. Thanks.
And Councillor Chozo, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and thank you, Jan, for the thorough report. Excellent. Question that I had was, there was a written briefing about most of the categories, but I noticed that provision of services had a lot of information there, but there wasn't any follow-up with regards to what the inquiries were about. Do you have any idea? Total, it said communication provision, goods and services. Do you have any idea what those inquiries were about?
Let me just look at that and see. I don't have that. Yes, I have it, but I don't have it off the top of my head because when we receive the metrics, each one comes in with, you know, sort of what the complaint was, or what the commendation was, what the resolution was.
Mm-hmm.
So those are managed through our CRM module. And so when an inquiry comes in, if it's, you know, like I left my glasses on the bus, then that will be deployed to the transit area. Transit will, you know, do what they need to do, and then they can put in their resolution about, you know, like customer contacted, you know, glasses returned kind of thing. So we are able to see what the resolution is, and you know, the customer is also aware of what the resolution is because it's a ticketing type system. So when an inquiry comes in, it's given a work order number. Right. And so we're able to track those. So which category was it that you were asking about?
So it said service area, and one of the categories was provision, goods and services. And there were 90, and then 76, 125, and 111. And then in the summary afterwards, page 7, it had the work plan, but didn't have an elaboration as to what provision of services were.
Okay, so provision of goods and services. So all of the service areas are collected under provision of goods and services. So that's a bit of a total. So you'll see, like, for example, service animals, like that's not really something that's within the provision of goods and services, is something that had to do with a city service. So, you know, my recycling wasn't picked up, or, you know, but a service animal, that's not something that the city has any sort of legislative authority over. It's not a service that we provide, but that might be a case where somebody has reached out to the city to say, like I was at, business X and I, had a really negative experience with somebody not, questioning about my service animal, or contrary to, could be somebody writing in to say, it was really great. I was out with my service animal, didn't have the vest, and, nobody bothered me. But when it comes to service animals, it's usually people are asking if it's something that the city can do. And to that point, I think one of the things that we are looking at for our Accessibility Awareness Week, our education campaign, is this year hopefully going to be targeted towards raising awareness about service animals and, what to do and what not to do. Don't touch the service animal, what you can ask, what you can't ask, kind of thing. So the provision of goods and services really just a total of all of the inquiries that were, it's sort of a roll up of all the service areas that you see above.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Another long-winded answer, I know.
It's okay.
Okay, any other questions? Not seeing anything. So we will move on to section, lost my agenda, 8C, which is appointment to working groups. So there are 2 working groups that are sort of subgroups of this larger committee. So both the Awareness and Education Working Group, as well as the Built Environment Working Group. It looks as though we will take usually up to 5 members for awareness and education, and up to 7 members for Built Environment. So I've been on the Awareness and Education Working Group, so I don't mind providing an explanation, but then I'm wondering if perhaps I could call on Susan after to maybe give a little bit of an update on the Built Environment, just before we ask for volunteers, because that is essentially what we are going to be asking you for. So in terms of these 2 committees, the Awareness and Education Working Group typically meets the same frequency of this committee. And we just work on, again, as the title suggests, awareness and education around some of the things that we deal with on the committee. So there is usually separate agenda that we have for that, separate projects that are just a smaller team that end up working on things to progress. So one of them in the past has been, oh gosh, I'm losing. We have done some of the campaigns. I don't know if Derek, do you have a better explanation?
Yeah, Amy, no worries. So I help from a staff perspective with the Awareness and Education Working Group. Main focuses are campaigns usually around the end of May, early June for Accessibility Awareness Week. And in the past, things have focused on accessibility in city facilities, accessible parking, and as Janet alluded to, one of the focuses that was established last year will be about service animals this year. So the group helps to formulate what are areas of importance in accessibility in the city, and then work with city staff to put together these campaigns. Additionally, the working group also helps with the organization of the Celebrating Accessibility Awards, which happens every year. So I'd say those are the 2 big ones, but we can also work together on whatever topics that the group feels is of importance to the community. So Amy, hopefully that's a good overview for you.
Yes, thank you. I feel like everything blends together in the committee, so I couldn't remember what was awareness and education and what was MAC. But in any case, Susan, would you mind giving a slight overview for us on the Built Environment Working Group?
Sure, and then again, maybe if I miss something, maybe Janet can jump in as well. So the Built Environment Working Group, we meet usually once a month. Traditionally, it's been Thursday mornings at 10 o'clock, but some of the group members had conflicts with that. So we may have to create a new meeting time. And the focus really is on built environment projects within the city in terms of sort of 2 areas. One of the big thrusts, and one that I'm very involved in, is the site plan review. And what happens there is that before the new law, any project that was coming to the city in terms of development of 10 units or greater MAC reviews it as part of the other planning different city departments and works directly with the planner to give feedback. And because these are generally private projects, our focus is primarily on the external features. So it's things like parking, like accessibility of parking, accessible paths to accessible doors, anything that would be covered sort of in the external environment. And it's a really good opportunity. The planners are fantastic to work with. We often have concrete changes based on our suggestions with the developers. So it's a really great way to have an impact. So anybody that's interested, whether or not you have background in this, I had no background in this, you can be trained. And so that's a big thrust of our work. Other projects come up from time to time. There was a review of Rick Hansen accessibility audit that Janice was part of. Sometimes there's projects from the city that come up. And I don't know if there's anything else that I've left out that, Janet, you might want to chime in.
No, I think you did a really great job on summarizing that, Susan. The bulk of the work is in reviewing the site plans, and I think the only other thing would be that if the city of Kingston is ever in a position where we're looking at making changes to the City of Kingston facility accessibility design standards, then that is something that we would heavily consult with the Built Environment Working Group on. So for anybody who doesn't know what the facility accessibility design standards or FADs are, that is a document that was prepared by the city, and it is a commitment to the residents of the City of Kingston to the standard that city facilities will be made accessible. So, and it goes above and beyond the requirements of the Ontario Building Code. So of course, not all of our buildings meet that at this time. You know, I work at a city hall. It's a building that was put together in 1840s. So there's areas there that are definitely not meeting the FADs, but you know, whenever work is undertaken for a new build or for a renovation of existing facilities, every effort is made to meet those FADs to make the buildings as accessible as possible. And for anybody who does volunteer on this working group, I will reach out to the group after we have those names, and so we can try and coordinate sort of a regular time that works best. But like Susan said, I think currently it's the third Thursday at 10 a.m. and we do meet via Zoom.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Janet. So is there any questions first on either of those committees before we ask for volunteers? And while we of course hope to get volunteers today, if you do want to take it home, think about it, and let us know. I think that's also something after, but if there's no questions, I'm happy to take first volunteers for the awareness and education working group. And again, usually it's up to 5, sometimes we've had more, but is there anybody that would like to volunteer to go on that committee? And I will volunteer myself if that's allowed, Derek. I also see Andrea, I also see Darcy, this point in time.
So that, yes, Amy, you can volunteer yourself. Okay. And I will point out that 2 committee members who are not here today, Penny and Dinah, have served on it previously. So don't worry about, we don't need to fill it out for now because they may want to come back. So not to discourage anybody else, because to an important point, even if you're not an official member of the working group, you're still welcome to come to meetings, participate. It's we go a little more informal there.
For sure. So I had Andrea and Darcy for that one. So again, if anybody else, you can think about it and let Derek know, but otherwise I'll move on to the Built Environment Working Group. If anybody would like to volunteer for that. I see Lucy, Kim, Caitlin, Susan, Janice. Did you get all of them, Derek?
Yeah, sorry. I'll
Okay,
just go over the names I have are Lucy, Caitlin, Kim, Susan, and Janice. Oh, Kim, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question. Even though I might be on the built environment group, can I make a suggestion to the awareness group as to a project that they might look at?
Yeah, certainly. You can always reach out to me or work with the group, Kim. I'll look forward to hearing from you on that. So I think we've got the volunteers there, Amy.
Yeah, is that something that we have to get movers and seconders for?
Yeah,
is
let's
that-
just, because it's,
Okay.
we'll put it up to council, so we'll get mover, seconder, and have a vote if you don't mind.
Okay, if we can do them collectively, that would be great. So mover and seconder for both those members that we had mentioned for awareness and education and built environment. If I can get a mover, Councillor Tozo, thank you. And a second, Susan, thank you. And then all in favor? Perfect, thank you. That is carried. So our next piece is appointment to project teams, which is part 8D of the agenda. I'm not sure if people are aware of what project teams and things are, so I'm just going to give a brief overview. And again, if Derek wants to jump in, I will have that. But project teams, I would say, are the bulk of what a lot of the committee does kind of outside of this committee meeting. Any sort of project that comes up within the city, and you can see great examples of them in terms of those projects that are coming up this month. There's always some sort of MAC involvement, if you will. So depending on the project, depending on the scale of the project, there is usually 1 or 2 members, and you could see some of them are asking for 1 member, some are asking for 2. It also varies depending on the project, on what the commitment is going to be. I would say typically it's usually only a few meetings, and it could be this month and it could be in 8 months. Sometimes, depending on the project, depending on the budget, depending on what it is, Derek and his team would have a better idea in terms of if any of them are more immediate than others, depending on if it's a park versus a building. It will vary on your tasks. I would say generally, let's say with a park, we would start at the very beginning. So you'd get sort of a plan of the park before it's even sort of built, getting ideas. You can provide input in terms of the accessible features, things that might be lacking, things that they should consider. And this is all throughout the entire process. So for a park, I kind of had started at the very beginning. We also did site visits. We also got to look at the equipment. You could provide all of that, but again, it depends on the project itself. And there's usually a little bit more instructions in terms of what the project will entail. And usually you're working with a city staff who is kind of leading each of these projects, and they're the ones who are asking for appointments. So basically anytime a city project comes up, they reach out to Derek, and then Derek puts it to our committee to kind of get volunteers. Again, I would say it's not a huge time commitment for each of these projects, and they're a great way to kind of dip your toes into working on some specific areas, especially if it's something you're interested in doing. And again, you're welcome to take on more than one project, because again, some projects are, you may get an email once every 4 months kind of thing, depending on where that stage of the project is. So just don't think that you're kind of jumping into a full-time, project with any of these. So that's kind of my overview of just generally projects. Is there anything you'd like to add, Derek?
I think just the one thing I would add is don't feel discouraged to volunteer for any of them, even if you have limited experience. The other important thing is staff are required to work with you and accommodate in any way they need to so that you can do your work as well. So please don't limit yourself on volunteering for one. We also often ask for multiple participants because that way, if somebody's unavailable, there's another MAC member who can assist. Also a good opportunity to partner experienced MAC members with somebody who might be new, so you can learn from somebody like Amy or Caitlin or Susan or Janice who's been around for a while. They would be great mentors in that process. So I think that's it. And I'm happy to answer as we go through, Amy, if there's any specific questions about the committees, but I'll throw it back to you because I see Councillor Tozo has a question.
Sure. And just right before I jump to his question, one other thing, I know I was a little bit confused at the very beginning when I first started, that we're used on a sort of consultation basis, if you will. So it's not like we are giving any sort of personal stamp of approval to any of these projects. A lot of times it is just, here's some considerations, and it's still up to the city staff to either determine whether they will take that feedback or not take that feedback, or where they will go with that. So again, we're used kind of in a consultation as part of that, and that's for each of those projects. So it takes a little bit less pressure off, I think, because you aren't like, you know, the one person that's going to make or break the project or anything like that. By no means is that the case. There's lots of eyes on each of these projects, and we're just a small part of the entire project. So Councillor Tozo, to your question.
Yeah, if we don't want to volunteer, could we still sit in as MAC members just to listen in for information? Because I'd like to learn, but I can't commit to a time commitment because I got lots of time commitments issues.
I was about to say, we usually haven't had that request from the council member, but we can, if there's one you're interested in being kept up to date on, I can provide your contact information to the appropriate staff. So we can make an accommodation for that, I think.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so hopefully everybody has had a chance to go through each of the projects. Usually we would just go through them one by one in terms of what we're looking for, asking for a volunteer, depending on how many there are. So 2, 4, 6, and then I think we had gotten an amendment. So there's actually 7 total that we'll be going through. So the first one is the 100-foot park and Point Crescent open space improvements, and we are looking for 2 volunteers for that project.
Oh, I see Aldo.
Aldo. Perfect. I can jump on that one.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. I've got those 2.
And so the second project is the City Hall fire alarm and fire sprinkler system. We are looking for 2 appointments on that. Yes, Derek.
And I will mention, Amy, this project is already about halfway complete. They are installing all of these in City Hall, so it would probably be a final walkthrough on this. The previous member, Glenn, was a great asset because he worked in that field. So this one might be a bit finite for people.
Do we have any volunteers? Janice, volunteer or question? Volunteer.
And I think, Kim, are you volunteering as well, or a question? Yep, Kim, and so we have, that's perfect.
Volunteer, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks, Janice. Our third appointment is just as accessible parking, and only 1 appointment.
Oh, we have a lot of volunteers on this one. So
is there an opportunity to have more than one? Or what's
there
the
can
project?
there can be multiple on this one. So this is, I think I put an explanation in my email, but it's whenever accessible parking spaces are created, it's a continuous one. So it might be good to have a few people. Dinah is already on it, but I think we could take 2 more reasonably.
I'll step back and let the new members.
Okay, I think I saw Nicholas, and who else had there? And Lucy?
Lucy.
Okay. Perfect. So the next project team is the Active Transportation Project, and we're looking for 2 members for that one.
So go ahead, Amy. I think you've got some volunteers.
I think I saw Susan and Kim. Perfect. Our next one is the transit stations. And I will, I guess, warn you, we always have project teams. So don't feel like if you aren't sure about what to volunteer, there every meeting there is typically project teams that come up because we always have new ones, end, start, finish, all that kind of thing. So sorry, this one is a transit stations and it's for one appointment. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, sorry, apologies, Amy. I had to duck. I have a service person at the house. So did I miss anything? Sorry to come back to that.
No,
okay.
No, you didn't. So
right.
Just transit stations, one appointment. I think I saw Andrea. Yeah. We are also looking for, it's the improved pathway connection behind a Providence continuing care. Just one appointment. Is that because there's already a second one on it? And I see Darcy's got his hand. Okay.
No, this one is actually, it's pretty much done. It's just a final review of like where the resting places and things are. So one member would be sufficient.
Okay. I think I see Darcy volunteering for that one. Yeah. And then in our addendum, we had another project, which is the Kirkpatrick Fountain Restoration. And we're looking for 2 appointments for that one.
And this is a relatively minor one as well. It's mostly there is an opportunity to repair and expand the sidewalk nearby. So it'll be a fairly limited duration.
I can volunteer for that one.
All right.
And does anybody want to join me? Again, Emily? Perfect, thanks.
Great. I think that's a good one for a learning experience on that one. So.
Okay, so that is all of our project teams for this. So I'm gonna again do that collectively. If I can get a motion to approve all of those project teams. I see Susan's name and a seconder, Janice, and all in favor to approve all of them. Perfect, thank you. And then, Susan, you have a question?
I just have a question, but there may have been an addendum that I didn't see. I had seen the appointment to the North Kingstown Secondary Plan Community Working Group. Are we still doing that, or?
I think it's the next on the agenda, though I'm not quite sure.
I'm sorry,
why it's a separate item.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. See,
that's okay.
Carefully. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So Amy, it's separate because it's a bit tricky. It's not actually a project team. This is like a separate city committee, and in their terms of reference, there's a MAC member that serves on it. So just a little clerk technicality there that makes it different.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So we are then looking for one member to be part of the North Kingstown Secondary Plan Community Working Group. And I see Susan volunteering for that. Perfect. And I guess we'll need a motion to approve Susan to that committee. Andrea, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Tozo. All in favor? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so that, for the most part, brings us to our next item, which is 9. We actually have no motions. 10, we also have no notices of motion this meeting. We have no other business. We also received no correspondence for this meeting. So the next item is just the date of our next meeting, confirming that it's Thursday, March 2nd at 1:00 p.m. Virtually again. I don't think we've talked about doing in person, so virtually at this point in time. And otherwise, this meeting is adjourned. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining our first meeting.
There's one more vote, actually, Amy. We do
sorry.
technically need to vote to adjourn, actually. So one more vote.
So if I can get a motion, thank you, Emily, and a second to adjourn, Darcy, and then all in favor to adjourn the meeting. Perfect.